It's time for News Talk 720 KDWN's Ask the Expert Hour. Have a question? Call now 702-257-KDWN. That's 702-257-5396.
Well, greetings again and welcome into another edition of Ask the Experts here at AM 720 KDWN. Glad that you're along with us here tonight. We've got a brand new show for you. Jim Dallas here along with Robert Partell from Partell Specialty Pharmacy. Two locations here in Southern Nevada, 8751 West Charleston, also 5835 Southeastern. Go to partellpharmacy.com. Also, the phone number, 702-791-3800. We'll give that number again, partellpharmacy.com. Also, the website. Robert Partell, welcome to KDWN.
Thank you, James. It's Jim. It's good to be on. A lot of people do think that my last name is Partell. They come in and ask me and say, well, I need to talk to Mr. Partell. It's actually Seik, and I'm happy to own this company now for the last 10 years.
Oh, okay, yeah. And, well, you look like, you're the big shot there, well,
it's actually a company that's been in Las Vegas for 20 years. I bought it with a business partner about 10 years ago. We took this little compounding pharmacy. It has grown, and I'm glad to be on this show to get the word out about some of the things that we do and talk about some things that people might be interested in. Absolutely.
And of course, as we work our way through the hour, we may open up the phone lines as well. 702-257-KDWN is that number, 702-257-5396. Now, Partell Specialty Pharmacy, just in the name itself, for Robert, suggests that maybe you're a little different kind of pharmacy.
Well, it's true. I mean, most people recognize the street corner pharmacies, the retail or the chain drugstores. And I came here to Las Vegas 18 years ago to actually work for Walgreens. And, there's been a number of ways to specialize as an independent pharmacist. And I had no designs when I moved here to own my own pharmacy, and actually spent 10 years of my career working in the pharmaceutical industry. But when Partell Pharmacy came up for sale, I noticed that it was a compounding pharmacy. And that was pretty interesting to me because, well, it's a specialization in the profession. And a lot of listeners probably, if they already know or don't know, I can define what compounding is. And it's basically for a pharmacy like ours, when doctors need to order something for their patients that does require a prescription, but it's just not commercially available from the pharmaceutical industry for one reason or another. If it's a product that has to be made, then we actually do that in a laboratory. So that is the business of compounding. And if you think about it, that's actually the first way that pharmacy was ever practiced. You had raw ingredients.
Sure.
You combine them to make pills or capsules, tablets, and different tinctures and oral suspensions. And that's how medicine was made before drugs were manufactured. And it's interesting to see things come full circle because the field of compounding is growing rather rapidly. And in our business, we engage a number of different verticals in the compounding area. We'll make specialized dosage forms of, say, adult medications that might be required for pediatric use. The pediatric doses are just not typically studied in the drug industry. It's economics. Nobody wants to do that because of the liability, but doctors still need them. So we'll make flavored suspensions for kids. We do a lot with veterinary medicines as well. Same thing, a number of medications that are manufactured for humans might need to be made in a different dosage form, something that a dog or a cat or a bird will actually eat. So we do a lot of that.
Right. Yeah, I would think with like a horse, I mean, that would be, maybe 3 or 4 times the dosage of what a typical human being would be.
That's true, and it varies because, gosh, you can have horses vary in weight by 400 pounds. And
that's true, too.
Many medications are dosed by weight, so it allows us to really specialize. And the fact is also some things that require prescription are so long off patent that they're just not economic for any manufacturer to make anymore. So those things are still made by compounding pharmacies. I have to buy my ingredients from USP, that's the U.S. Pharmacopoeia certified facilities. We are actually regulated by the State Board of Pharmacy, and there are a number of national guidelines, so these USP guidelines, for example, that we voluntarily adhere to, that Nevada actually adopted the USP guidelines as law as one of the first states, as did California. We happen to be licensed in both states. So it's really been a good run for me, and I'm happy to provide the services that we do.
Robert Seik is here from Partell Specialty Pharmacy here in Las Vegas. 2 locations, 8751 West Charleston, also 5835 Southeastern. You can go to partellpharmacy.com. 702-791-3800 is the phone number. Now, I've often wondered about generics. You've heard that phrase before, and you talk about, the price curve and everything. It's going to be much lower. Is that something that you deal with?
Well, when it comes to generics, a lot of people are thinking about traditional medications that you would get from a typical dispensing pharmacy like the chain drugstores. We do have those things. It's a very small portion of our business because compounding has taken up the major focus. For us right now, it being such a growth area. One of the things we do get asked about is, say, thyroid replacement, for example. Thyroid replacement is a big component of what we do. There are still many manufactured thyroid medications available. Most of them are available generically and are very cheap. What we have to do in compounding is we have to adjust when a physician will ask for a combination thyroid medicine. The most common thyroid medicine that's available as a generic pill, a lot of patients would recognize it as Synthroid, or Lavoxyl is Synthroid's generic. We'll make a compounded equivalent that will have the one component that's in these drugs called T4, or levothyroxine. That's one of 2 major thyroid hormones, and we'll also combine it with T3, a more active component. And for physicians adjusting their patients' hormone levels, in particular their thyroid levels, that's something that we commonly do. So I've been asked before, is a compounded drug technically a generic drug? And it's definitely not a branded drug.
Right.
It is a specialized drug. The question comes up when it comes to whether or not insurances cover compounded drugs. Many insurance companies do cover compounded drugs, many don't, and they kind of have their own specialized tier. I just wish they were on the generic tier, which is typically the lowest copay for patients with a prescription drug plan. But they're typically not. The compounded drugs either have their own tier or they're on the equivalent of the brand tier. But we take insurance at Partell Pharmacy, and patients are very happy about that.
We are speaking with Robert Seik of Partell Pharmacy here on Ask the Experts tonight. And, when you talk about compounding pharmacies, it is a growing business, isn't it?
It really is, and it was really a surprise to me. I saw that the business was for sale, a family-owned business. We still employ the previous owners' family members with the company, and a major thing happened in the industry. And as you know, baby boomers have driven many economic changes in the United States.
Oh, yeah.
And what's happening now, particularly with, say, women in menopause, is we have a woman entering menopause about every 18 seconds now in the country. And
the baby boomer women are, aging.
Right. And then also, their husbands are aging too, but women were the first to go to their physicians. And since the 1950s, the estrogen replacement that was used by a lot of physicians to quell hot flashes and night sweats in women was equine-derived, or what we call Premarin, pregnant mare urine. And it did a good job of quelling night flashes and hot sweats, and that drug was used for decades. In North America, what they did was they approved the combination calling Prem Pro, which is a synthetic progesterone, different from what we do in compounding, which is the natural or bioidentical hormone. The synthetic progesterone was only approved in North America, was not approved in Europe and South America. And what happened was this wave of women entering menopause really increased. Wyeth's sales of Premarin was actually booming in the United States, and the National Institutes of Health asked Wyeth to research the outcomes. Was this causing harm to women, this hormone replacement? And there was something called the WHI, the Women's Health Initiative, and the HERS trial, hormone estrogen replacement study. And very basically what these studies found was that particularly thin women who were on the synthetic progestin arm, not the same as progesterone, they had increased rates of breast cancer, ovarian cancer, heart attack, and stroke. And this caused an uproar in the community. And at the same time, I don't know if she's the best source of medical information, but Suzanne Summers, Chrissy, published her book. And women went off of the Premarin and Prem Pro by the millions. Wyeth's sales plummeted, and they realized very quickly, this is the analogy I use, menopause isn't really that great. They asked their doctors about solutions, and some doctors were already prescribing natural hormones, and more women told other women, they told their friends, and they said, I want to try this too. And now we have such a great growth in the natural bioidentical hormone space, which requires compounding pharmacies like ours. And the echo effect is now the women bringing in their husbands. So, yes, it's growing.
We are living and learning together on the show tonight here on Ask the Experts. Robert Seik is here from Partell Specialty Pharmacy. PartellPharmacy.com is the location on the web. Go check that out. 702-791-3800 is the phone number. 2 locations, 8751 West Charleston, also 5835 Southeastern on both sides of town. We got to take our first time out here. We'll continue in our discussion and learn together on Ask the Experts, Wednesday night style, here on AM 720 KDWN. Back in a few.
Now back to KDWN's Ask the Expert Hour. Have a question? Call now, 702-257-KDWN. That's 702-257-5396.
All right, welcome back. It is Ask the Experts here at AM 720 KDWN. Jim Dallas here with Robert Seik from Partell Specialty Pharmacy here in Southern Nevada. PartellPharmacy.com. Check them out on the web, 702-791-3800. Now, Robert, I wanted to ask you, you talked a little bit about, hormones and that type of thing, but you yourself, what have you done different from other compounding pharmacies to maybe raise awareness of the type of medicine that we're talking about here?
Well, it's interesting you brought that up, Jim, because I often do give public lectures. Sometimes I do give them in tandem with a physician that is in this space, and it's known by many terms. I don't really like the term anti-aging medicine. We're all still going to get older anyway.
That's true.
I do like functional medicine because if we get older, I want to help people maintain their physical and mental functionality as long as they can. I also like integrative medicine. It's another term for what we do in this field, compounding pharmacies and the physicians that use us, because they integrate the traditional prescribed drugs along with some more natural therapies. And hormones have become a big part of that. But what sets me apart from some other companies is really when I purchased the company, I realized that I wasn't really well educated on a lot of what these functional medicine doctors were doing in traditional pharmacy school. It was all about drugs.
Right.
You would receive a diagnosis, and the diagnosis would be coded to these cookbook treatments, which were these prescription drugs for high blood pressure, high cholesterol. And the functional medicine experts were using diet modification, high-quality nutraceuticals or nutritional supplements. So I enrolled in a program it's administered through University of Florida School of Medicine. It's marketed as the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine. So I am now 30 24-hour modules later and 10 years later, having learned a couple of things. And then what we've done is we get out to the public and realized very quickly that I'm sure some of the listeners, too, will call in with questions either during this show or future shows, and this will resonate with them. One of the slides I show in my presentation is actually the cover of a Forbes magazine. At the very top of the cover, you see a human hand letting go, dumping several different pharmaceutical pills into a trash can. And in the center of that cover, it says, "Pharma's new enemy, clean living." And I can tell you what's really helping drive the change in medicine, and also what sets us apart is I had to go out and learn this information. I teach my other pharmacists, and we actually engage with physicians and their patients who have questions, and we don't want to just receive a prescription for, say, hormone replacement therapy and let a physician or a patient think, well, that's all I need to do, and I'm just going to feel better. You might want to optimize your health by doing some other things like optimizing your diet. Maybe we need to increase our nutritional intake of a couple special things, a little bit higher and get better outcomes.
So, a little cardio might help a little bit, huh?
That's right. I'm a big advocate of weightlifting. I
think
anybody at any age needs to move iron.
Resistance.
Exactly.
Yeah, you need to, make those muscles work a little bit.
You know, and I've had physicians tell me when we've had similar discussions, say, Robert, I'd be happy if my patients just got off the couch.
Exactly.
Yeah. And the fact is, a lot of people have low energy. And when people ask me, say, well, okay, what is this hormone therapy all about? Why is it so big? And I have to think, well, if we think of our primary hormones, and this applies to both men and women, most people would recognize, as you and I talked during the break, testosterone, estrogen, progesterone.
Right.
Okay, there's many other hormones, but let's look at testosterone alone. It is responsible for 300 different metabolic reactions in the male body.
Wow.
And as many in the female body. Women have a little bit more need for estrogen than we do, but estrogen receptors are found in every tissue in the female body, responsible for 400 different biologic functions. So the bottom line is, as the hormone therapy practitioners in this space know, if your hormones are low, at least one of those hundreds of things aren't going to feel so great. And what I want patients to think of when they're talking with their physician, and we have a great network here in Las Vegas that practice in the functional medicine and hormone replacement spaces. You know, if you're sitting at home, you know, don't just think that any physician should tell you, well, you're getting older and you're just supposed to get old and cold and tired and fat and dumb. And you know, I want to reject that model. I want people to do whatever they can to maximize their health. So I think one of the things that sets us apart is, you know, the education. The fact that I just don't want to dispense hormones and have a great business. I want to teach people everything else that's necessary to keep them healthy so they get all the benefit that they can out of the hormones. And I think it's just the company's general interest with me and my other pharmacists, the rest of my staff, in just making people as healthy as they can be.
Well, I've always been an advocate. I mean, diet and exercise and on a regular basis. Certainly, I know myself, I try to walk at least a couple of miles 4 or 5 days a week, and I probably should step that up, but at least that's kind of a start to a healthy lifestyle.
You know, I really like that. I mean, just walking and just for fun, to know that I could still do stuff as I was getting older. I became an instructor in something called the Russian kettlebell. It's very popular. I just kind of liked...
What's it called? Kettlebell?
The kettlebell.
Oh,
it basically
kettlebell.
Looks like a cannonball with a handle. And I wanted to do things that were physically challenging. And I noticed when I took my first instructor course that there was a 65-year-old woman in my group. And they passed the microphone so that we could all introduce each other. And she said, you know, why I'm here is to prove to every other 65-year-old woman that you don't have to be stuck on the couch with joint aches and pain, that you can actually get out there and move and be strong.
Right.
And that's the first thing, is to get out. So what I would challenge you to do is what one of my instructors told me to do is, if you only have that time to walk that 2 to 5 miles a week, hopefully it's outside when it's not too hot.
Yeah.
How about some rucksack walking? We talked about getting some resistance.
Yeah.
Put about 25 or 30 pounds of weight in a nice supported backpack and get out there and walk, because that added resistance will help support your bone density.
Yeah.
It'll help improve your posture, and you'll get more work out of that 2 to 5 miles that you walk.
So you're putting the weight in a backpack. What about, I don't know, something around your ankles or something, too?
Yeah, I don't like that. My wife is a postural therapist, and she might say that it might alter your foot strike or hurt your ankle a little bit.
Could be, yeah.
You know, there's some ex-military guys that would talk about the days when they were out in the field hauling 80 pounds of gear, and they were pretty in shape. And I don't necessarily want to haul around 80 pounds of gear myself, but, you know, they had pretty good weight distribution system, and we'd get out there and exercise. And one of the people that spoke about it, you know, this heavy or weighted walking was actually an ultra marathoner. And he said it was one of the things that saved his joints from not running too much, is just doing weighted walking, because when it came time to run, he was that much lighter.
Yeah, I know sometimes you can go to the club, you know, some of these workout facilities, and they have that resistance where it's like you're walking up a mountain or something along those lines.
Yeah, you know, I like that. I think, you know, the first goal is just get people out there and move. And the second goal is to, you know, just get out there and, you know, there's a way that you can overdo it. But as long as you're combining, say, some cardio stuff and getting some resistance. I have my 78-year-old dad using light kettlebells, 16 kilogram or 35-pound kettlebells, so that he could get some resistance in. I don't want him to lose bone mass or muscle mass.
Right.
And I really think it's helpful. And it's been a good complement to what we do in our pharmacy. In our one, you quoted the address for the one at Eastern, which is at Eastern and Russell. You know, I remember the old pharmacies when I was first going to one as a little kid with ear infections. The one we went to in our little hometown in Pennsylvania had a soda fountain. Well, the one that we have on Eastern Avenue has an organic juice bar.
Nice.
So we make protein smoothies, we make different types of vegetable juices, because one of the things I'm a big advocate of is making sure people have the maximum nutrient intake that they can. I kind of mentioned before that hormone therapy is a great start, but it's not enough. You have to have all the supportive nutrients for your body's biochemistry. And the main thing we need to do is get as many colorful foods, particularly vegetables, in our diet as we can. And, even the USDA, Department of Agriculture, recommends 7 to 9 servings a day. So a serving is defined as a half cup cooked or 1 cup uncooked, and the best 20% of us are getting 5. So one of the things I like to do, and listeners, actually, they can go to our juice bar. We have our own name for it called the Green Regime. They can use a promotional code, Radio Show. Just mention Radio Show. You listen to Robert on the radio show. Go in and try one of our juice recipes. I'm a big fan of the Clean Green. It's a whole bunch of green vegetables, a little bit of apple, so not too much sweetness.
Right.
And it's spun up, and we actually use a Vitamix, so I preserve all the fiber that's in there. And you get a really big serving of greens, which is another great start, in addition to just 2 things we already mentioned. Hormone therapy, if you're low, replace them. Get some exercise and get your greens in. Do what Grandma said, and you'll be healthier.
Yeah, I agree with you. When you're talking about 7 to 9 servings a day of fruits or vegetables, I bet most people don't get half that. 3 or 4, maybe.
Like I said, the best 20% of us, and there are only some days that I get this many servings, and I try, to get the 5 or more. So one of the ways to bypass it, and what we'll probably do in future shows that I've done on actually other radio shows for other people in different parts of the country, right from Las Vegas, people want to ask these questions. Okay, well, how do I do that? Okay, you can actually ask our people at the juice bar, the Green Regime, for the recipes for the juices we make. Take them home. I just want you to be healthier. I don't want to keep it a secret.
Right.
Another thing you can do, and I use these products. Excuse me, I use some powdered greens. Now, eating the live vegetables is probably best. Eating live vegetables is probably the best, but powdered greens powder, I buy a line of products called Power Greens from a company called Numedica.
Right.
I also buy a product called Amazing Grass. I do have 1 or 2 scoops of this product per day to kind of supplement my vegetable intake, and they're advertised as 20 to 50 servings of pulverized vegetables in combination. My favorite is a chocolate flavor, mixes very well.
Now, let's stop you right there because we're going to go into the break here, but we'll continue with our discussion with Robert Seik from Partell Specialty Pharmacy. 2 locations here in Southern Nevada, 8751 West Charleston, also 5835 Southeastern. PartellPharmacy.com. Check them out and get healthy again. 702-791-3800 is the number. We'll take our bottom of the hour break and continue. You're listening to Ask the Experts here on AM 720 KDWN.
Now back to KDWN's Ask the Expert Hour. Have a question? Call now, 702-257-KDWN. That's 702-257-5396.
All right, welcome back to Ask the Experts here at AM 720 KDWN. You heard the man with the big voice, the announcer there. That is the phone number if you have a question for Robert Seik from Partell Specialty Pharmacy. Go to partellpharmacy.com. Also, 702-791-3800, the phone number. 2 locations here in Southern Nevada, 8751 West Charleston, also 5835 Southeastern. And we've really been talking about the whole gamut of being healthy, Robert, in the first hour, half hour of the show. Of course, diet has a lot to do with it. And certainly hormone replacement therapy is another way to go. But how do you maintain good physical and mental health with the hormone replacement therapy?
Well, I look at a wellness paradigm as basically I look at a pyramid. And I'm going to look at what the foundation is. And you mentioned initially, as we came back after the break, the foundation about diet. Diet is the foundation. And as we build this pyramid to make somebody well and functionally perform as best they can physically and mentally, we would add hormones in there. It's typically my 3rd step. because what I want to do is flood the body with as many good nutrients as possible. So hopefully we get all of them that we can from food. And the sad fact is, as we talked about, we just don't get enough vegetables. That's one thing. The way we grow a lot of our foods has changed in the last 60 years. They're just not as nutrient dense as they used to be.
Right.
So we do have to supplement. And I like to get concentrated nutrients from foods. That's why we have a juice bar to educate people on how to make recipes. I really like juicing. Is a big important thing. And then if your hormones are low, even after you fix some of these other things, then yes, you want to replace them. And, you know, that starts to paint the picture. We also have to talk about detoxification. We need to talk about the primary offensive foods to get out of the diet if we want to optimize our metabolism. We can talk about that in this portion of the show. And then also, too, we want to modulate stress. I mean, we live and work in 21st century America where our brains are never off. We're on the telephone. We're on the cell phone. Sometimes we're on the cell phone talking to somebody and sending a text message. We have email.
Oh, yeah. I've seen them driving before doing that. Which you're not supposed to do, obviously.
No, we're looking at laptops all day long. We got billboards stimulating us and all the advertisements and television. We need a little bit more quiet time because all of this is shifting our health. And what I'd like to do is encourage people to manage as much as they can, because we're all just not going to go live on a beach the rest of our lives. We do have to work.
Right.
And I want to reduce I'm very cognizant as a pharmacist of what pill burden is. And I want to have people get as much benefit as they can out of exercise and good sleep habits, good nutrient-dense foods before they start using nutritional supplements and then the hormone replacement therapy, because I know they're going to need those things. I have a good business. I just want you to get the most you can out of the foundation as possible.
Robert Seik is here from Partell Specialty Pharmacy, 2 locations here in Southern Nevada, on Charleston, also on Southeastern, partellpharmacy.com. Now, let me ask you about these one-a-day vitamins, okay, because I take that. You know, it's got all the vitamin C in there, the vitamin B12 and the B6 and all that. What's your thought on those?
Well, when you look at these mass market, first of all, anything with a commercial, I'm always thinking most of the money is spent on the commercial.
On the commercial, yeah.
Not on the quality of the product.
Yeah.
And if you look at what the nutritional needs are, the human body a day, and I look at these one-a-day tablets, there's no way I can cram all the powders of the different nutrients that I know the body is going to need. So the magnesium, the B12, the calcium, the potassium, no way I can cram all of that into one tablet. And then a little joke, if you talk to many plumbers back in the northeastern U.S. where I live, where people have septic systems, ask them what one of the number one things is that clogs up septic systems. It'd be some of these hard compressed tablets.
Interesting.
You know, I do take a multivitamin. I mean, I'll be biased. I use one that I get actually from my own store. I buy it from a company. The brand is called Compounded Nutrients. It is called NutriSpec Pro. And to get everything that's on the label requires 6 capsules a day. I like the capsule forms better. And then the things that will distinguish, say, the high-quality supplements from lower quality is, well, let's look at something like vitamin B6, for example, which is pyridoxine. Pyridoxine hydrochloride, that's in most of the vitamins that are over the counter. It's cheap. It's not very well absorbed at all into the body. You need the active form, pyridoxal 5-phosphate, or what we call P5P, and a lot of people don't know that. And now you can imagine just asking me when I used to work in the chain drugstores, filling many hundreds of prescriptions a day, if I had the time to answer this question. And for things like magnesium oxide, magnesium carbonate, very cheap, inexpensive. They're not well absorbed, which is why when you take too much of these forms, you can get diarrhea. They're not absorbed into your bloodstream from the small intestine. They get to the colon, cause irritation, and you get diarrhea. You need what we call chelated forms of magnesium called magnesium malate or glycinate, where imagine eating vegetables. Vegetables pull minerals out of the ground. That's where we should be getting our minerals from, is from eating vegetables. Because when the vegetables pull the minerals out of the ground, they couple them to an amino acid. So imagine a crab claw. That's the amino acid, and the mineral is in the middle of that claw. That is a chelated mineral. That is how the human body is designed to absorb minerals. And now you see one of the reasons why I'm such a fan of getting those dark green leafies in, even if you have to juice them, because we need the minerals.
Well, yeah, you know, when you break it down like that, see, obviously you're way up here in the stratosphere as far as thinking about these things, where a lot of people, they take that multivitamin once a day and they go, hey, I'm good. There's no problem there. But you're right. I mean, when you're talking about all the minerals that you need in the body, you're better off if you go the natural way.
I think you are. You got to start with food. I still think you're going to need a supplement. I eat a pretty nutrient-dense diet. I still take my multivitamin, plenty of fatty acids, and probably too many things that'll make your head spin. But those are the foundations. And when building the foundation, I not only want to think of the nutrients that are going into the body, but the most common things that should be removed from the diet, in my opinion, that I think are wrecking our metabolism. You've probably looked at some of the statistics about the onslaught of diabetes and obesity in the United States.
Oh, yeah.
It's no joke. The average American consumes 150 pounds of sugar and 200 pounds of flour per year per person.
That's incredible.
It's dramatic. And as you look at the changes over the last 20 years, we consume more and more of these things as each year goes on, and we get heavier and heavier as a nation. I tell people, if you can get those two things out of your diet, or I'm a 7 out of 5. I don't never have a slice of pizza. I love pizza.
Right.
I go to Metro Pizza. Okay?
Oh, sure.
But
is that the thin crust you like there?
I like the thin one.
Yeah.
But I look at it as 5 out of 7. I still want to live. It's not that I never have a beer. I just don't have 4.
Right.
And I don't have one every night. But if you can do, say, 5 out of 7 days or 5 out of 7 meals where you avoid all grains, there you go. That's a big thing.
Sure.
Now, here's your cereals, even your oats and oatmeal. There's your breads.
Yeah, see, that's tough to do. It's really hard to cut out bread because I grew up in the Midwest too. I'm from Ohio, and I grew up on meat and potatoes and, a slice of bread. You got your basic 4 food groups and you're good to go.
Right. And then if you look at that, now our bread is grown with so much genetically modified wheat, and maybe not the GMOs the problem. That there's a big debate in science. I think it is, but definitely the pesticide spraying, and we're picking all that up. And there's only last year alone, Jim, 2.4 billion tons of pesticides dropped on U.S. agricultural soil alone. So we have to think about that as what's causing us to be so much less healthy than we think our grandparents were, say, 30, 40 years ago. And the environment is definitely a factor, and I think the increased consumption of grains. But if people ask me, say, well, I want to start, we're doing this show now, it's December. They want to start after the first of the year. What can I do? I say, hey, if you can get grains and sugar out of your diet, and if we can expand that and also get other white things out of the diet like potatoes, and and corn too. Let's get these big 4. Maybe I would add soy on that as well, because 100% of U.S. soy and corn crops are genetically modified now. So I'm not a big fan of those. So that's the big 5. All your grains, all your sugars. Let's get rid of your soy and corn. Oh, the 5th one would be your dairy. If you can just do that, give me 30 days. You'll start to lose weight. I see an average of 8 to 15 pounds of weight loss. We haven't even talked about getting on hormone therapy or any nutritional supplements yet. Just get the big 5 things out of your diet. You'll be hungry. So what are you going to eat more of? You're going to eat more vegetables.
Well, see, that's the thing. That's what I was going to ask you about, because I have tried to do this. I don't know about the 5 out of 7 thing, but I've tried to skip bread at a meal here and there, and I find myself hungry afterwards. So the way to fill up is with the vegetables, you say?
The way to fill up is vegetables, and don't be afraid of fats, healthy fats. When we don't consume fats are one of the things that actually signals to the brain that you have eaten, you are satisfied. And healthy fats, I don't like to cook with olive oil. I like to just put it on vegetables cool, right out of the jar. I like to cook personally with virgin organic coconut oil. It's a high heat oil. Also, ghee. Have you ever heard of ghee?
I've heard of it, yes.
Very healthy substance. Ghee is basically clarified butter. It's butter that's been boiled to get rid of all the milk solids. So there's your lactose and casein out. And it leaves a nice, rich, nutty flavor. And if it's from grass-fed cows, well, those cows are eating a lot of their vegetables, their greens.
Right.
That butter is going to be very healthy. I like to cook with that as well. And, sometimes also, if we've been eating a lot of the grains and sugars for a long time, it elevates a hormone chronically called insulin. So insulin, if it's always high, because we're always going from one meal or snack with one of those things in it, those 5 things I mentioned, insulin is always high. It also stimulates hunger. It takes a while for that shift to take place. So some people have to deal with, being a little bit hungry for a short period of time, but you can eat an unlimited amount of things like romaine lettuce, spinach. These things will bulk up. You'll actually get tired of chewing before you can eat too much of these things.
Well, I've seen that before where people, they eat, like 7 times a day or something like that because they're constantly hungry. They're eating the types of foods that you're talking about. And am I on the right track here? Do people end up eating more meals a day?
I don't, they shouldn't. Okay, I know that's a common thing that many personal trainers have talked about for a long period of time, and it might be a valuable thing if you're doing these bodybuilding or bikini competitions and you absolutely have to modulate your metabolic hormones in such a way to strip off every layer of fat. That's probably valuable to eat 7 times a day. Not practical for me.
Yeah,
I'm a protein shake in the morning, and it's one of my themes. If I can get people to do just one thing, take whatever you're eating for breakfast, even if it's nothing, switch it out for a protein shake. If you did nothing else, I bet you'll lose 5 pounds in the first month.
Now, is that the whey protein?
Whey protein, if you can tolerate it, because whey protein is cheap versus the amount of protein you get. As long as there's no sugars, well, how do you tell if you don't tolerate it? You take whey protein, and if you get some bloating or gas pain in your belly, you take whey protein and you get some of the post-nasal drip that causes you to clear your throat.
Right.
That's mild intolerance. Switch to different proteins, like vegan-based proteins. They are more expensive, and I typically only recommend them if I have somebody that can't tolerate whey. I'm one of the people who cannot tolerate whey, so I have to use the vegan-based proteins.
Okay, yeah, because I've used the whey protein before, and, you put it in with some vegetables or fruit, and you put the blender in there, you put the whey protein, a little bit of water or juice, and you're good to go. We got to take our time out here. We are speaking with Robert Seik from Partell Pharmacy. Go to partellpharmacy.com, 702-791-3800. Back in a few.
Now back to KDWN's Ask the Expert Hour. Have a question? Call now, 702-257-KDWN. That's 702-257-5396.
All right, welcome back. It is a Wednesday edition here of Ask the Experts. Jim Dallas along with Robert Seik from Partell Specialty Pharmacy. 2 locations here in Southern Nevada, 8751 West Charleston Boulevard, also 5835 Southeastern. Go to partellpharmacy.com. 702-791-3800 is the phone number. Again, partellpharmacy.com. And this is our first show, Robert, and of course, we've learned so much, and as we go through week to week, I know we're going to be learning more. But I just wanted to ask you, your hopes and dreams for the show itself. What do you see?
Well, it's a great privilege to be on the show and, and get some of the information out there that I've been training. Where I'd like the show to go, I imagine that we'll have callers come in and tell us to speak about certain topics, okay? And also I have a number of great practitioners that I've had the privilege of working with collaboratively here in Las Vegas. I'm going to invite them to be guests periodically. These are medical practitioners that practice this hormone therapy and nutritional medicine. So I understand, Jim, we have a call?
Yeah, let's jump to the phones here. And by the way, our number, and we still have a few minutes left, 702-257-5396 is that number, 702-257-KDWN. Let's talk to Chuck. Chuck, welcome. You're on KDWN.
Hi, Jim. Hi, Robert. How are you doing?
Pretty good, sir.
Good, Chuck. Thank you.
A couple of things. I realize that as a pharmacist, you must have quite a background in pharmaceuticals and all that sort of thing. And the thing I'm really impressed by in this broadcast is you're suggesting things that are really great common sense. Before you suggest everybody take every pill known to mankind, you're suggesting maybe they work on their health and their all the important things in nutrition and so on. I think that's tremendous. I had one question, though, that is lingered with me. A friend of mine has trouble digesting, and someone told me that in about age 25, every 10 years after that, you lose about 20% of your enzymes in your stomach that are involved in digesting food, which means you're out of enzymes by the time you're 75. Have you dealt with this before? And you know what doctors tend to do? I'm not asking for doctor's advice. I'm asking if this is something that's commonly dealt with.
It is something, Chuck, that is commonly discussed in the functional medicine meetings that I go to. Proper digestion is critical. If you have nutrients, and we talked about them being in their right form from vegetables or supplements coming in to the body, but you don't have the ability to absorb them, well, then what good do they do? And certain things actually require a sufficient amount of digestive acid to get into the body, and these are things like minerals like calcium and magnesium, which you cannot build bone without these two minerals. So you're absolutely right that digestion is important. It's also very commonly known that as we age, we produce fewer and fewer digestive enzymes. And if you like, I can give you a couple tips on how to optimize your digestion to overcome this if you want, Chuck.
That would be great.
Okay, so the first thing, I've had an old physician tell me nothing's going to get better in a patient until you teach them to chew their food. We swallow our food whole, so make sure you chew your food. Digestion.
20 chews, right? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Digestion begins in the mouth. Enzymes in the mouth activate enzymes in the stomach. What we don't want to do when we have a meal is we don't want to drink a lot of clear liquids. We're now diluting our digestive acid. If you need to drink something during a meal, it's the bare minimum. And if you want to be super healthy, make it a vegetable juice or some good old-fashioned bone broth. Get some extra minerals that way. And there are digestive enzyme supplements that are helpful. I do recommend them quite a bit. If I go out for a ribeye, I'm taking with me a product called Dipan 9, or I'm taking a product called Pepsigen, which gives me a little bit extra digestive acid to get those things down. And another good, powerful superfood is we have to keep our gut. It's a tube 30 foot from end to end. And it is populated with beneficial bacteria, actually 100 trillion of them. There are only 10 trillion cells that make up the human body, so there's 10 times more of them, the bacteria, than there are of us. And a good way to keep that count high in a healthy way is fermented foods, great and cheap. Get yourself some organic pickles, organic fermented vegetables. I've seen carrots in European stores. Kefir is a fermented milk product that is rich in probiotics. Kimchi, sauerkraut. These are much better forms than yogurts, in my opinion, which are most commonly advertised. But if you can have a little bit of sauerkraut juice even with a meal, you'll keep your healthy digestive flora high, and then just avoid diluting your digestive capacity, and I bet you'll start to feel more energy.
Well, I got a lot to learn, I guess. I'm probably going to have to bug you quite a bit.
We look forward to your calls.
All right, Chuck.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks for the phone call. Our number here is 702-257-5396, 702-257-KDWN. Robert Seik is here from Partell Pharmacy, Partell Specialty Pharmacy. You can go to partellpharmacy.com and get some more information. 702-791-3800 is their phone number. And you mentioned don't drink liquid when you're eating. That is interesting. I've heard that just a couple of times, and recently I guess I've been doing it wrong all these years. Well,
we don't want to drink too much. You want to drink just enough liquid to aid digestion. But you saw me come into the station here, and I have about a 1 liter bottle of water. I definitely don't want to drink a liter of water when I'm consuming a meal because...
Well,
yeah, I'm washing it down instead of chewing it, first of all.
Right.
Second, I'm diluting my own digestive acid, which I don't want to do. So one of the good healthy tips that we often give is say, hey, sip as few liquids as possible. I like the Vitamix because I have one at home. The Vitamix device, a cheaper but just as good product, is called the Blend Tech.
Right.
And on the website, they have some recipes where you actually just put a bunch of vegetables and some broth into the blender, and you spin it up. It actually makes a soup. Think of soup or that bone broth as your beverage.
Yeah.
It gives you some extra nutrients, and it doesn't dilute your digestive acid like clear liquids.
That is great information. I tell you what, we are going to be learning so much from Robert Seik from Partell Specialty Pharmacy. This is the first show, and many more to come. Do yourself a favor. Go to partellpharmacy.com. Check them out. 702-791-3800 is that phone number. 2 locations here on both sides of town here in Southern Nevada. 8751 West Charleston, also 5835 Southeastern. Robert, I tell you what, it's been a lot of fun, and we'll have to do it again next week.
Thanks so much, Jim. See you then.